Hello and good evening, everybody. This is Matt again. I wanted to do this video for quite some time now. It's called The Red Conspiracy. It discusses the aims and goals of the Faith of R'hllor, namely with relations to Westeros. Now, this is a pretty big undertaking, and there's quite a bit of research that went into it. And there's a lot of people that I'm going to give credit for along this video. And if I forget anyone, please don't be offended. I have nothing but the utmost respect for everyone that's helped me build this video. Now, I'm going to do this in either 2 or 3 parts. I haven't decided yet. It'll depend on how much I get to cover in this part and what I want to do with the other 2. So let's get into it, shall we? The Faith of R'hllor is intriguing. We don't really know much about their structure. We know quite a bit about their magical powers, and they have taken an increasingly important role as the books have gone along. But here I want to focus mainly on what I call the Red Conspiracy, or their intentions for Westeros. And their intentions I've narrowed down into 3 main factors. I'm going to discuss the first one in this video, and then I'll see if I do the other 2 in one, or if I do 2 in a video and then 3 in a third one. So we have 3 objectives that the Faith of R'hllor has in Westeros. The first one is to hatch dragons. The second one is to bring the faith to the masses. And the third one is to prevent the Long Night. Now, at the start of a Game of Thrones, there are 2 known Red Priests in Westeros, and those are the 2 that we are going to look at. There's Thoros of Myr, who's at King's Landing, and sorry, again, this isn't vodka. There's Thoros of Myr, who's at King's Landing, and then there's Melisandre of Ashai, who's at Dragonstone. Now, we've made a video with Melicans earlier where we discuss Melisandre quite at length. So, for the sake of diversity, I'm going to start with Thoros of Myr. So, Thoros is at the Red Keep. Now, we know that he was sent to the Red Keep to convert the Mad King Aerys Targaryen to the Faith of R'hllor. Now, had this plan succeeded, this would have gone a long way into accomplishing goals 1 and 2 for the Faith of R'hllor. By converting the King Aerys to the Faith of R'hllor, he may have been more inclined to attempt to birth dragons or even reveal the location of dragon eggs hidden in the Red Keep. And certainly to have the king embrace the Faith of R'hllor would have gone a long way towards bringing it to the masses of Westeros. Now, the rebellion happened, and Thoros was horrified by the brutality of Gregor Clegane and Tywin Lannister. He fell into alcohol, and he became a drinking buddy of Robert Baratheon, but he also managed to gain Robert's trust and friendship through both his prowess in the melee in tournaments and also his bravery during the Greyjoy Rebellion, where he was first through the breach at the Siege of Pike with his flaming sword. Now, Robert was a far less suspicious king than Aerys was. So if Thoros was a friend of his, it stands to reason that he probably would have had a lot more freedom to roam around the Red Keep looking for lost, misplaced, or hidden dragon eggs. It should be said at this point that if you're trying to hatch dragon eggs, if you're trying to create or hatch dragons, you need 4 components. You need fire, you need magic, you need king's blood, and then you need dragon eggs, obviously. Therefore, if you're going to look for dragon eggs in Westeros, it makes perfect sense that you would send your envoys to the 2 castles where the Targaryens lived for the most part, which is Dragonstone and the Red Keep, which is, in my opinion, why this is where we find Thoros and Melisandre. Now, Thoros of Myr is not very successful in his first 2 goals. He doesn't convert either Aerys or Robert to the Faith of R'hllor, and to the best of our knowledge, he hasn't found any dragon eggs in the Red Keep either. That being said, his role will become considerably more important when it comes to spreading the Faith of R'hllor to the masses. However, this will be for another video. So we have Thoros of Myr, and so far the Red Conspiracy doesn't look like it's off to a particularly good start. So let's go over to look at Melisandre now. Now Melisandre goes to Dragonstone, which makes a lot of sense in many ways. First of all, if we look at the goal of converting royalty to the faith of R'hllor, she certainly succeeds. She converts Stannis, Robert's older brother, his wife, his entire household basically embraces the Lord of Light. So in that sense, and to a certain extent, Melisandre was successful, although her success is not nearly as impactful as it would have been had Thoros succeeded with either Aerys or Robert. Now, where I think Melisandre succeeded is in actually finding dragon eggs. Now, let me explain. It is my belief that Melisandre is the daughter of Aemond One-Eye Targaryen and Alice Rivers, his bedmate from The Princess and the Queen, which is a novella written by George R.R. Martin, who relates the events around the Dance of Dragons. Now, I've talked about this quite extensively in the Melisandre video, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, other than to say this. There is a mention in The Princess and the Queen that good King Viserys planned on finding out whether Aemond One-Eye was worthy or not by taking him to Dragonstone to see if he could hatch a dragon egg. And Aemond got really mad, and while he was at the Driftmark, he rode off on Vhagar, which was the most fierce of dragons and the last surviving dragon from the Conquest. I think it was Visenia's dragon, if I'm not mistaken. Therefore, the egg that Viserys had planned on giving Aemond was never given. So if you believe the theory of one dragon to one rider, that means that somewhere in Dragonstone there's one, perhaps more, but at least one unaccounted for dragon egg somewhere. And I do think Melisandre found it. And I'm going to quickly fast forward to a little further down in the books when Melisandre goes to the Wall. And I think this is connected to her finding that dragon egg because she's going to attempt to hatch it because the Wall has all four components that I've mentioned earlier that are needed to hatch dragons. So the Wall has fire, the Night's Watch burns their dead. The Wall has King's Blood. It has Maester Aemon, Mance Rayder, Val's baby. These are all, royal-blooded people. It has magic. The magic of Melisandre goes through the roof when she's at the Wall. And if she indeed has the dragon egg, then all four components are present. But I'm going to talk more about the Wall and the relationship with Melisandre in a subsequent video. I want to backtrack a little bit now and go back to a few more events. Now, plan number one, hatching dragons. It's going somewhat well. Melisandre has an egg, although she probably doesn't have all the components that she needs to hatch it at Dragonstone. So she needs to move Stannis and everyone else somewhere where these components actually are. Now, there's a series of events that happen in between these things. The Battle of the Blackwater, Stannis is defeated, but the end game for her, I believe, remains the same. Now, on the side of Thoros of Myr, the story is rather different. Now, we're not going to fault Thoros for not finding any dragon eggs in the Red Keep because I don't think there are any. However, the failure to convert the king is on him. He did not succeed for a variety of reasons. He's a drunk. He's questioning his faith after the horrors that he's seen in Robert's Rebellion, and he's perhaps not trying as hard as he should. Although, again, it's kind of hard to blame him for that. The rebellion was a pretty dramatic event for a lot of people. Nonetheless, then happens the send-off to kill Robert Clegane. Some Darry men come to the Red Keep to claim that they were attacked by what appears to be Sir Gregor Clegane. Now, if you want to look at a reason why it's probably not Gregor Clegane and that the story is largely made up, I suggest you watch Preston Jacobs' video called The Riverlands of the Dragons. It's very interesting and it provides a very compelling case as to why the story made up by the people who came to plead to Ned Stark for help was bogus. And Thoros of Myr joins the party that goes off to bring Gregor Clegane to justice. And this will later on lead to the formation of the Brotherhood Without Banners, which, as I will talk about in the next video, will be key to both the Dragon Plan and the spreading the faith of R'hllor to the masses plan. Now this brings us to a cataclysmic event, a huge transformation in the entire plan of the faith of R'hllor that happens at the end of A Game of Thrones. Unbeknownst and probably without the help of the faith of R'hllor at all, Daenerys Targaryen hatches 3 dragons from 3 stone dragon eggs in Khal Drogo's funeral pyre. Now, when that happens, we get a very important glimpse as to why the faith of R'hllor is so obsessed with dragons. And that is quite simply their powers become exponential. Both Melisandre and Thoros see it. There are red priests all over Essos, especially in Volantis, where the Tiger faction are deep supporters of the faith of R'hllor, preaching as Daenerys Targaryen being the Stormborn, being the savior, being the Stormborn, being the mother of dragons. There is the entire continent of Essos is abuzz with the birth of dragons. And this dramatically changes the plans of the faith of R'hllor in terms of how they're going to hatch dragons. Because the plan is no longer to hatch dragons in Westeros. The plan now is the bringing of dragons to Westeros via a Targaryen restoration. So, really unbeknownst to her, and perhaps through no direct action of hers, Daenerys Targaryen becomes absolutely central to the plan of the faith of R'hllor to bring dragons back to Westeros. Now you may ask, why would they want dragons so badly? What's this obsession about? Well, there's 2 things we need to look at in terms of their obsession with dragons. And this obsession is a lot stronger with Melisandre than it is with Thoros of Myr, which I think has a lot to do with the fact that Melisandre has Targaryen blood from her father, whom I believe to be Aemond One-Eye. So, number 1 is, as I've mentioned before, the dragons are a source of power for the priests of R'hllor. They have increased whatever powers that they have, and there are several manifestations of it. They have increased power, but I think number 2 is that the hatching of dragons is a show of power. The small folk of Westeros, mostly except in the north, worship the faith of the Seven, which is a highly dogmatic, highly corrupt religious institutions that really has failed to demonstrate any type of prowess or supernatural powers or anything that you would associate with religion. So therefore, if a red priest was able to hatch a dragon, or in the second case, to bring dragons to Westeros, this would certainly go a long way in terms of gaining them a following amongst the small folk and displacing the faith of the Seven as the main religion of Westeros. So, where do we stand with our Red Conspiracy? So, goal number 1 was the hatching of dragons. Now, the hatching in Westeros has not succeeded. Thoros of Myr didn't find any eggs. Melisandre went to the wall in the hope of gathering all the elements she needed to hatch a dragon. She did not succeed. The vast majority of the king's blood at the wall is gone. Maester Aemon is no longer there. Stannis is marching on Winterfell. Mace was burnt alive. Mance was switched for Rattleshirt. Mance's baby was switched with Gilly's baby. Val was sent to find Tormund. That leaves Selyse and Shireen, which I don't think Melisandre would dare burn alive. And that leaves potentially Jon, if you believe R plus L equals J. But the attempt looks a lot more difficult than it did when Stannis and Melisandre arrived at the wall right after defeating the Wildling army. But on the other side, the worshippers of R'hllor and the institution itself, which is based in Essos, has had a tremendous boon in Daenerys Targaryen hatching her own dragons. And not only did it boost the power of the priests, it created a second option to bring dragons to Westeros, which is a Targaryen restoration. Now, this may seem like it's going all well and good for the faith of R'hllor. However, this is also what's going to create their biggest enemies. And this is something that I'll go over in subsequent videos. But we will look at how the faith of R'hllor, along with the Tiger faction of Volantis, and the restoration of the Targaryens as somewhat of a pawn in their play, is going to run into stern oppositions from the Order of the Maesters, the Faith of the Seven, and House Hightower. So this will be for the next video. It's summertime here. The weather is beautiful. I'm going to try to do the next video outdoors, either in a park or at a bar somewhere. We have a holiday on Wednesday, 2 days from now, so I'm going to try and do it then. So, but I don't want to keep you guys waiting too long for the second part. So I'll try to do that at that time. But until then, I look forward to your comments, your thoughts, your insults, your compliments, whatever you want to give me. All right. Cheers, guys. See you next time.